Welcome to Cause Before Symptom with your host, James Carner.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to be talking about the 13 Bloodlines, a deep dive, part one of a multi-series. Woo! It's going to be crazy. Stick around. Welcome to Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Today is November 20th, 2024, and tonight we're going to be talking about the 13 Bloodlines. The ones at the direct, the tippy top, the bloodlines that are causing all havoc in the world right now because their God told them to do it. They are the Zoroastrian Bloodlines, the oldest religion known to man. And these psychos are practicing it. And that is their number one religion. Underneath there, they claim they are the Zionist Jews from Israel, which they're not. They're actually from Iran. All of this comes from Iran, believe it or not. And I know I've done a show about this, but I only really named the names of the families. I never actually went through each family and talked about which ones are which. And you're not going to believe it. One of the 13 Zoroastrian bloodlines, Trump is in it. Oh, shit. So, let's get into it. It's a very long show. It's going to take a while. Shout out to Boots. She Lexi. Edged. What is going on, people? Glad to have you on board. You're here just in time to discuss the 13 Bloodlines, a deep dive. Boot says, I tried sharing your TikTok and it has a warning of harmful content. Sharing is limited. Already? I just posted it on TikTok. All I said was I'm going to be exposing the 13 Bloodlines of Zoroastrians, Black Nobility, and Illuminati. Is that so much? A warning. Harmful content. Oh, God. Well, at least I haven't had any troubles with Rumble. So if it's going to be a small list of people watching this, so be it. Ugh. I should have had a coffee before I came on. Yes, I've been tired for the past week. I just, the reason being is I'm not getting much sleep because inside my nose, this is the nose I breathe in, and it's really... It gets dry and crusty and bloody, and when it does that, I pick at it, and then it gets worse, and I can't breathe in there. And I try putting on those nose strips, and that works. But in the middle of the night, they pop off my nose, and then I start breathing again through the nose. And anyway, yeah, you're just gonna have to bear with it. What's going on, Texas Militia? What's going on, PLP? Amanda, what is up? She Lexi, as I've already said. All right, the 13 Bloodlines. Here's a deep dive. Whew. I made them blush. Oh, I didn't mean to. It's all good. Guys, there are 3 tiers of bloodlines that control the world. They are as follows, from the top down. The Zoroastrians, the Black Nobility, and the Illuminati. Now, the Zoroastrians, they're the top tier. They are your House of Orsini, which is the Orsini family of Rome, whom is at the top right now. Then you have your House of Borgia, or Borgia. They're not at the top, but they're powerful. Then you have the House of Breakspear. Other names are the Magi and Lancelotti. Next is the House of Colonna, or the Colombo crime family. Next is the House of Farnese, which is a military bloodline. Then is the House of Aldobrandini. Then the House of Somaglia. Then one you're going to freak out. The House of Caetani, or Gaetani, which is spelled Caetani or Gaetani, di Aragona, or the House of Caetani di Aragona, which is the Bourbon family, the Gotti family, the Gambino family, and the Trump family. Next, you have the House of Chigi Albani della Rovere. They mix and merge with families. It used to be just the House of Chigi. Now it's the House of Chigi Albani della Rovere. And if I'm pronouncing them wrong, so what? Go read it yourself. I give you all of my sources. Next is the House of Medici. Then the House of Doria Pamphilj Landi. I don't know how you say Pamphilj. It's P-A-M-P-H-I-L-J. The House of Doria Pamphilj Landi. And the House of Est, or Este, E-S-T-E, which I couldn't find very much about. It's like I could find a lot about all the others, but not the House of Este. It's weird. Now, that's the Zoroastrian top-tier bloodline families. They are the true blood of the sons of Cain. It doesn't matter if they are or not, they believe it. And maybe they've got proof, who cares? But they do inbreeding to keep the blood in the family. Now, below them are the black nobility and papal bloodlines. They're the second tier. These are the House of Alba, A-L-B-A. Next is the House of Bathory, Dracula, Order of Bath, Prince Charles, and Bloodbath Ritual, Bathory. Next is the House of Bonaparte, B-O-N-A-P-A-R-T-E. The House of Medici, yeah, Vaughn says, didn't they lose power? A lot of those families lost power, but they didn't lose their money, and they didn't lose their ability to continue staying in power. They just lost their power to get to the top, to the Breakspear and Orsini. You see, they'd rather be third in line than fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth or ninth or 10th or 11th or 12th. They are very competitive. Now, we're talking about the black nobility and papal bloodlines, the second tier of rule of the world. I've just read the House of Alba, the House of Bathory, and next is the House of Bonaparte, which I think is where... what is his name? It'll come to me. Who cares? Next is House of Borromeo, B-O-R-R-O-M-E-O. And then next is the House of Bourbon, which has a connection directly to the House of Caetani, or Gaetani, or Caetani di Aragona, which is the Bourbon, Gotti, Gambino, and Trump family. Yeah, you really, dude. When the left was saying Trump is a criminal, they weren't lying. he's part of the big mafia. Next is the Dreyfus family. Richard Dreyfus. Yeah, Yes, thank you. Napoleon Bonaparte, yes. They're still around, the family. Next is the House of Habsburg. And next is the Guinness, Hennessy, and Bailey families. These are the black nobility and papal bloodlines, the second tier, underneath the Zoroastrian bloodlines. Next is the House of Moriscotti Ruspoli, or Mariscotti Ruspoli. Next is the Odesalci family. Odesalci family. Next is the House of Orange Nassau, Nassau. They're the cult of Venus. The House of Orange, you've heard throughout your truth movement information. Next is the House of Osorio. And then the Pallavicini, the Pallavicini family. Yeah, dang, all the drinks. They are, aren't they? Next up is the House of Sacchetti Doria, or Goldman Sachs. I guess that family owns Goldman Sachs. Next up is House of Savoy, Savoy. Next is House of Sforza, Sforza. And again, these are the black nobility family bloodlines underneath the Zoroastrian 13. Next is the House of Torlonia and Borghese family. Okay. Underneath them is the House of Windsor. And they're the ones who control the weather and harp, apparently. And last of the black nobility group is the Massimo family and the Italian nobility group. I'm sure you've heard of some of these families. I've heard of most of them. There's only like 3 or 4 that I've never even heard of before. But, this is a deep dive. I've been doing a lot of research today. And believe me, this stuff is hard to find. You will not find this on Google. Now, I just told you the first tier of bloodlines, the second tier of bloodlines, and now the third tier of bloodlines. This is what's called new money. They're not old money. There's a big difference between old money and new money. Old money eats the rich. And the Illuminati never will make it up to either the black nobility or the Zoroastrians, although they'll try their hardest. But I've warned them. I've warned the second tier and the third tier families that they're in trouble. They don't realize that the Zoroastrian families will eat them and steal their money, because their God tells them they're holy if they do. So the third tier is the illuminated or the Illuminati families. Yeah, I did this all on Yandex, Vaughn. The third tier new money Illuminati families are the Astor bloodline, the Bundy bloodline, the Collins bloodline, the DuPont bloodline, the Freeman bloodline, the Kennedy bloodline, the Lee bloodline, the Onassis bloodline, the Reynolds bloodline, the Rockefeller bloodline, the Rothschild bloodline, the Russell bloodline. And keep in mind, some famous actors are exactly who you think. Ryan Reynolds, Kerry Russell, the Van Dyne bloodline, the Merovingian bloodline. I think that's how you say it. The Disney bloodline, the Krupp bloodline, Krupp, the McDonald bloodline, the Gates bloodline, the Bush bloodline, the Clinton bloodline, the Kraft bloodline, the Taft bloodline, the Smith bloodline, the Carter bloodline, the Zuckerberg bloodline, the Bezos bloodline, the Murdoch bloodline, and finally the new one, yes, Jessica Alba. Correct, Amanda. And finally the newest one, the Elon Musk bloodline. And many more top-tier leaders, families in business, religion, politics, Hollywood, music, and education. They're inside all of it. Those were the first 3 tiers. Oh, it's recorded and I have my notes. You can, when I'm done with this show, you can go to my website tomorrow. It will be up there, all of my notes. Now, the 4th level are various presidents, prime ministers, leaders of the world in high-level positions, and various higher levels of secret societies and occult groups. The 5th levels are Freemasons, Eastern Stars, and various other secret societies that make up our judges, lawyers, doctors, teachers, mayors, police, wardens, businessmen, landowners, and others that aren't very rich. Lower levels of that are the initiates that come in via the fraternities, sororities, and other secret oath groups that don't know anything, however want to gain power, control, wealth, and prestige. Lowest levels are the snitches, groupies, and blind sheep that create idols out of these rich, powerful, and influential people. What I read above are the international criminals, the royals and noble crime bloodlines that are threatening society with even more fake pandemics, epidemics, weaponized forced vaccinations, wars based on lies, civil war, world war, martial law, and genocide. If you want to know what the future is going to be like, all of those things I just mentioned will be happening all around the world. Civil wars, war, world war, martial law, genocide, it's all happening already. You see, you're in a war, and these families wage it. They are attacking civilization with secret societies, organized crime, corporate fraud, and even electronic weapons. They are using low electromagnetic frequency devices to plant thoughts into your brain. All around the world. These bloodlines spread plagues and have been doing that for hundreds of years. These families are behind all of the major wars, including World War I and World War II. When real people stand up to these tyrants like them, they infiltrate opposition such as the American Revolutionary War, which was actually hijacked by Freemasons. You see, we try to stand up to them. but they're so powerful, they infiltrate us quickly. Every militia in America that tried to stand up against tyranny have been infiltrated by the FBI. Every single one. And we're going to be talking in this, I believe it's going to be a three-part series about the 13 Zoroastrian bloodlines. Each one, we're going to go over their history and who's in charge. Are you excited about that? These criminals collectively have trillions, if not more, quadrillions of dollars in offshore accounts in Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Luxembourg. And they are controlling the bank for international settlements. They extort governments and people to make hundreds of billions, if not more, per year through organized crime. They torment people with electronic weapons, and they don't even know it. The entire electronic grid has been weaponized with neurobiohacking programs. They finance continual lying in society through the media and entertainment to keep you entertained yet dumb. Their primary tactics are just lying and making false accusations against people who expose them, and then using phony arrogance to appear like they are in control at all times. The royals and nobles run all of the religious organizations, secret societies, and covert organizations like the Jesuits, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, Scientologists, Skull and Bones, Kabbalists, Wiccans, 5%ers, Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, the Shriners, and it goes on and on and on. And they somehow manage to get you to pay for all this. They own the organized crime syndicates, including all mafias, drug cartels, street gangs, and biker gangs. Yes. Hell's Angels were ran by the Freemasons. They oversee the global organizations like the United Nations, NATO, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, CERN, Maritime Law, Interpol, Conference on Disarmament, Red Cross, the Geneva Conventions, and I could go on and on and on. These criminals have infiltrated every government agency in the world through pedophilia, child sacrifices, criminal financing, bribery, secret organizations and oaths, and mafia tactics. They have designed all governments as corporate entities and chartered subsidiaries of their corporate houses and monarchies. They are mass human traffickers, mass murderers, and war criminals who commit crimes against humanity all the time. Oh, yes, they control the Council on Foreign Relations as well, Vaughn. And these families also control all of the world's religions. They control Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hindu, Buddhism, and all of the denominations. And these families are extremely religious. And they practice Zoroastrianism, This is their main religion. Underneath their main religion, they act like Zionist Jews, which is just a cover religion to take hold of power in the Middle East. They're Zoroastrianists. Now, the black nobility, they're not Zoroastrians. They can't be because they don't have pure blood to be a Zoroastrian. So they follow the Kabbalists. They follow the Talmud. They follow the bastardized version of Judaism mixed with paganism, and it settles fine with them. Now, Zoroastrianism is an ancient monotheistic religion that originated in Iran and is the oldest religion which is still practiced today. Out of all the religions, the first that came onto the world is Zoroastrianism. Its founder, Zoroaster, also known as Zarathustra, is the founder of Zoroastrianism. Their beliefs: Zoroastrians believe in one God, Ahura Mazda, who created the world and revealed the truth through Zoroaster. They also believe in a constant battle between good and evil. Zoroastrians worship in fire temples, where priests keep a fire burning. The central ritual is the yasna, which involves reciting the Avesta and performing a sacrificial ritual. Zoroastrians also traditionally pray several times a day. Their symbols are fire, which represents truth and righteousness, and white, which symbolizes purity. Zoroastrianism was the first official religion of Persia from 600 BC to 650 CE, or after Christ. So it was a 1,000-year religion. After the Muslim conquest of Persia, Zoroastrian refugees called Parsis, they fled to India. And today, Zoroastrianism is practiced in parts of Iran and India. And in the stands. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, there's 5 stands? I forgot all the names of them. But all of those stand countries are the are the Zoroastrian family homes. That's their station. It's theirs. It's not Russia. You don't see Russia invading any of them. No, they're just going to Ukraine. But these guys, they believe that their religion is the true religion. And that's a bummer. A bummer, dude. Zoroastrianism is thought to have influenced the development of Judaism and Christianity. That should make all the sense now. Why these leaders, these Zoroastrian ritual murdering, fire-breathing people, they think that they developed and created Judaism and Christianity to control the world. Because the Christianity doesn't predate Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism, they think, officially came from Persia, 600 BCE. But they say they were the ones who formed, or the Abrahamic covenants and all that came from Zoroastrianism, but the dates don't match. Some practices that the Zoroastrians do, they call disposal of the dead. Zoroastrians do not cremate or bury their dead, but instead place them in circular stone towers called Towers of Silence. Great. They have an initiation. When young Parsis reach the age of 7 or 10, they are initiated into the religion and receive a white undershirt and a white belt to wear for the rest of their lives. Sounds like Mormonism. Zoroastrians believe that if they do evil on people, their God will reward them, as all evil in this world is meant to guide us spiritually and to learn from. The more evil these people do, the greater rewards they get from their God. One God. Zoroastrianism is just simple paganism worship of Baal and Moloch. For the past 1,500 years, two families have controlled the Catholic Church through the Jesuits. They have warred against each other to be the top leader and have the gray pope position of the church. That's the grand prize for all of these families, to be the gray pope, to have their covering head of the household as the gray pope, which the gray pope gives orders to the black and white pope to do good and evil. They are the ones who think they control all duality on earth, good and evil. Everything that happens on earth is not a coincidence. It is planned and ordained by the gray pope, who takes his orders from Samyaza and Azazel, the two fallen angels that work under Lucifer. All of the 13 Zoroastrian families try and compete for the top, but only two have remained the most sinister, passing the spear of destiny, or the spear of Longinus, which pierced Jesus' side, back and forth to each other, with the breaking of the spear ritual, in which happens every 500 years, give or take, when society becomes brittle and needs a new ethos. Any tier underneath the Zoroastrians will never be first tier due to their bloodline not being as pure. You, being an outsider, like one of the Illuminati or one of the black nobility groups, your daughters or sons cannot marry into any of the above 13 Zoroastrians. Their blood isn't pure. It has happened, but a very special occasion must happen where their God told them to do it. The Zoroastrians are the descendants of Cain and keep the Canaanite religion alive as they have done for the last 6,000 years. Cain killed his brother Abel and became the first murderer, which just so happened to be the first sin ever created on earth. Their God has many names, and the most commonly used one throughout all of history is Lucifer. Zoroastrianism has influenced movies like Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and characters as diverse as Voltaire or Nietzsche and Freddie Mercury, who have all cited it as an inspiration. Meaning, Freddie Mercury was a Zoroastrian. It is generally believed by scholars that the ancient Iranian prophet Zarathustra, known in Persian as Zartosht and Greek as Zoroaster, or Zoroaster, or Zorro, lived sometime between 1500 and 1000 BC. Prior to Zarathustra, the ancient Persians worshipped the deities of the old Irano-Aryan religion, a counterpart to the Indo-Aryan religion that would come to be known as Hinduism. Zarathustra, it's a tough one to pronounce, however, condemned this practice and preached that God alone, Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Wisdom, should be worshipped. Meaning, in Hindu, they have millions of gods. Zoroastrianism says, no, that's wrong. There's one God alone. And they believe that name is Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Wisdom. In doing so, he not only contributed to the great divide between the Iranian and Indian Aryans, but arguably introduced to mankind its first monotheistic faith, which means one God. The idea of a single God was not the only essentially Zoroastrian tenet to find its way into the major faiths, most notably the big three: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The concepts of heaven and hell, judgment day, and the final revelation of the world, and angels and demons all originated in the teachings of Zarathustra. As well as the later canon of Zoroastrian literature they inspired. Even the idea of Satan is a fundamentally Zoroastrian one. In fact, the entire faith of Zoroastrianism is predicated on the struggle between God and the forces of goodness and light, represented by the Holy Spirit, or Spenta Manu, and Ahriman, who presides over the forces of darkness and evil. Ahriman, apparently that's the devil. While man has to choose to which side he belongs, the religion teaches that ultimately God will prevail, and even those condemned to hellfire will enjoy the blessings of paradise, which is an old Persian word, paradise. And how did these Zoroastrian ideas find their way into the Abrahamic faiths and elsewhere? According to scholars, many of these concepts were introduced to the Jews of Babylon upon being liberated by the Persian Emperor Cyrus the Great. They tricked and trickled into mainstream Jewish thought, and figures like Beelzebub emerged. And after Persia's conquest of Greek lands during the heyday of the Achaemenid Empire, Greek philosophy took a different course. The Greeks had previously believed humans had little agency and that their fates were at the mercy of their many gods, who often acted according to whim and fancy. After their acquaintance with Iranian religion and philosophy, however, they began to feel more as if they were the masters of their own destinies, and that their decisions were in their own hands. Kind of like they broke off of Zoroastrianism and started their own religion. This is what they think. Now, I'm not telling you any of this is real or not. This is from history. This is what the Zoroastrians believe. This is what the 13 bloodlines who control the world believe, even though the timelines don't add up. Abraham came way before 650 BCE, so what the heck? Though it was once the state religion of Iran, Zoroastrianism, and widely practiced in other regions inhabited by Persian people, like in Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and much of Central Asia, Zoroastrianism is today a minority religion in Iran and boasts few adherents worldwide. The religion's cultural legacy, however, is another matter. Many Zoroastrian traditions continue to underpin and distinguish Iranian culture, and outside the country, it has also had a noted impact, particularly in Western Europe, meaning it's starting to grow. Centuries before Dante's Divine Comedy, the book of Arta Viraf described in vivid detail a journey to heaven and hell. Some scholars believe that Dante could have possibly heard about cosmic Zoroastrian traveler's report, which assumed its final form around the 10th century AD. The similarity of the two works is uncanny, but one can only offer an hypothesis here. But this is kind of the stuff that the Zoroastrians will say, hey, Christianity, Judaism, they followed from our religion. Elsewhere, however, the Zoroastrian connection is less murky. The Iranian prophet appears holding a sparkling globe in Raphael's 16th century school of Athens. Likewise, the Clavis Artis, a late 17th, early 18th century German work on alchemy, was dedicated to Zarathustra and featured numerous Christian-themed depictions of him. Zoroaster came to be regarded in Christian Europe as a master of magic, a philosopher, and an astrologer, especially after the Renaissance. I would say if I had to pick if Trump had a religion, he would be a Zoroastrian, because he's a magician. He's an alchemist, a philosopher, and an astrologer, especially after the Renaissance? Says Ursula Sims Williams of the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. Today, mention of the name Zadig, immediately brings to mind the French fashion label Zadig and Voltaire. While the clothes may not be Zoroastrian, the story behind the name certainly is. Written in the mid-18th century by none other than Voltaire, Zadig tells the tale of its eponymous Persian Zoroastrian hero who, after a series of trials and tribulations, ultimately marries a Babylonian princess. Although flippant at times, and not rooted in history, Voltaire's philosophical tale sprouted from a genuine interest in Iran, also shared by other leaders of the Enlightenment. So enamored with the Iranian culture was Voltaire that he was known in his circles as Sadi. You've heard that name before, in the name of spirit. Goeth's West-East Divan, or Divan, dedicated to the Persian poet Hafez, featured a Zoroastrian-themed chapter, while Thomas More laminated the fate of Iran Zoroastrian in Lala Rookh. This is the art that was all around giving credit to Zoroastrianism and Zoroaster. And it wasn't only in Western art and literature that Zoroastrianism made its mark. Indeed, the ancient faith also made a number of musical appearances on the European stage. In addition to the priestly character Sorastro, the libretto of Mozart's The Magic Flute is laden with Zoroastrian themes, such as light versus darkness, trials by fire and water, and the pursuit of wisdom and goodness above all else. Didn't God destroy the earth with water, and then next he's going to destroy it with fire? They're saying they stole that from Zoroastrianism. Freddie Mercury was intensely proud of his Persian Zoroastrian heritage. He said, and I quote, "I'll always walk around like a Persian popinjay," unquote. He once remarked in an interview, "And no one's going to stop me, honey." Likewise, his sister Kashmira Cook, in a 2014 interview, reflected on the role of Zoroastrianism in the family. "We as a family were very proud of being Zoroastrian," she said. "I think what Freddie's Zoroastrian faith gave him was to work hard, to persevere, and to follow your dreams." Well, when it comes to music, though, perhaps no single example best reflects the influence of Zoroastrianism's legacy than Richard Strauss's "Thus Spoke Zarathustra," which famously provided the booming backbone to much of Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. The score owes its inspiration to Nietzsche's magnum opus of the same name, which follows a prophet named Zarathustra. Although many of the ideas of Nietzsche's proposes are, in fact, anti-Zoroastrian, the German philosopher rejects the dichotomy of good and evil so characteristic of Zoroastrianism. And as an avowed atheist, he had no use for monotheism at all. I'm just saying, Zoroastrianism is what they practice truly. Below that, they claim that they're Zionists. And Freddie Mercury had a big mouth. Pun intended. Freddie Mercury and Zadig and Voltaire aside, there are other overt examples of Zoroastrianism's impact on contemporary popular culture in the West. Ahura Mazda, which is their god, served as the namesake for the Mazda car company, as well as the inspiration for the legend of Azor Ahai, a demigod who triumphs over darkness. In George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones, as many of its fans discovered last year, as well as one could well argue that the cosmic battle between the light and dark sides in the Force in Star Wars has quite ostensibly Zoroastrian written all over it. For all of its contributions to Western thought, religion, and culture, relatively little is known about the world's first monotheistic faith and its Iranian founder. In the mainstream, and to many U.S. European politicians, Iran is assumed to be the polar opposite of everything the free world stands for and champions. But Iran's many other legacies and influences aside, the all but forgotten religion of Zoroastrianism just might provide the key to understanding how similar we are to them. And we actually know that the Jesuits control Iran. Go look back on my website. Go through all of my notes. So now you understand the religion that these people have, that it's a one God religion. And in this religion, there's more to Zoroastrianism. Maybe I'll do a show about that alone. But the God of Zoroastrianism, Mazda, definitely uses people on earth to commit evil on purpose. That's the kind of God he is. And believe it or not, these 13 Zoroastrian bloodline families, they're doing evil because their God is pleased with them by doing so. And so while they do evil, they feel no consequence because their God says they're in his will. So when they harm children, they feel no empathy or apathy because that's what their religion calls for. Which tells me that they blaspheme the Holy Ghost. Therefore, they have no empathy or apathy because there's no love of God in them. So sometime along in their rituals, they blaspheme the Holy Spirit. So by the time they reach an adult, they have no love for love. They have no shame. They have no ill will for the things that they do. Now, why is it that there are 13 families? I don't think it came about because it's the perfect number and it aligns with the stars. I think it eventually turned into that after all of the wars of these families for the past 1,500 years fighting to get to the Gray Pope position. Because every one of these 13 Zoroastrian family bloodlines, all of them had a hand in one of the popes, at least one of them, throughout history. And believe me, when you get your pope in, you're in the money. Woo! So we'll start with the first house of Borgia or Borgia, which is a Spanish noble family which rose to prominence during the Italian Renaissance. They were from the Jativa kingdom of Valencia, the surname being a toponymic from the town of Borja, B-O-R-J-A, then in the crown of Aragon in Spain. The House of Borgia are one of the most well-known bloodlines of the black nobility and are infamous for being murderous and ruthless. They use a red bull on their coat of arms, which symbolizes their aggressiveness. The Borgia family originated in Valencia, Spain, and are historically known as Marinos, which means half-Jews. They were originally Hebrew-speaking Babylonians living in Morocco that were working with the Canaanite Carthaginians during the times of ancient Rome. The Borgia family directly produced Pope Calixtus III and Pope Alexander VI. Francesco Borgia was a former superior general of the Jesuits. Pope Innocent X was also closely related with the Borgias through a marriage between the Borgia and Pamphilj families, which the Pamphilj is one of the 13. I think it's how you pronounce it, Filj. P-A-M-P-H-I-L-J. Pamphilj. That's what it says. Pope Innocent X was a canon law lawyer and was depicted as the devil in Guido Reni's painting. There is also a statue of Pope Innocent X at Capitoline Hill. Canon law really takes its name from Canaan. Canaanites, sons of Cain. Canaanites were enemies of the original Israelites, and their leader was called Gog. Pope Francis's real name is Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Bergoglio. Gog, get it? Goglio. Which is a variant of its name. Jorge Mario Bergoglio needs to be executed for his crimes, which includes pedophilia, child murdering, cannibalism, blood drinking, torture, and assault. Jorge Bergoglio is the most slanderous devil on the planet, and he makes constant false accusations against people who speak out against pedophiles and child murderers. Jorge Mario Bergoglio is a psychotic monster that was involved with Operation Condor, and kidnapping 2 priests in Argentina. A group of Canaanites migrated into Greece and to Carthage. Carthaginians later migrated into Spain and other parts of Europe. The House of Borgia have intermarried with the Este and Sforza bloodlines and their Spanish branch intermarried with various Spanish noble lineages like the House of Trastamara and Aragon. Now, let's take a step back here. Borgia intermarried with the House of Este and Sforza. And the House of Este is one of the 13 Zoroastrian bloodlines, but they're the hardest ones to find any information on, believe it or not. I actually found a lot more information on the Breakspears than I did on the Este or Est family. So perhaps the Borgia married into them and basically took it over for them. I don't know. But their name and their family is still around today. Prince Luigi Borgia is currently a member of the House of Bourbon, to Sicily's military order of St. George, and a noble of Naples. The Borgia family claim the titles of Duc d'Os in France, which is currently held by their Spanish line. The French Borgias married with the Lavasseur family, and the con artist private detective Derek Lavasseur works for the Borgias today. And he's disgusting and highly blasphemous. Apparently. Derek Lavasseur from Providence, Rhode Island, works with child traffickers as a fake private investigator and winner from the show Big Brother. The crime family in Providence is owned by the Bourbon Two Sicilies, such as Prince Luigi Borgia, who is currently a knight of the Bourbon Two Sicilies. This is how they connect with the Trump family. Meaning this family, the Borgias, they're connected with Trump. Meaning they probably support Trump because they are supporting the Bourbons. Does that make sense? The Borgia family were known for murdering civilians for fun and poisoning their enemies. This information is being downplayed and has been removed from historical texts in recent years. I believe the black nobility forced the Borgia family out of Rome because they have a rule about not killing each other and not being too reckless, like publicly slaughtering civilians like Cesare Borgia did. The other black nobility are just as murderous and ruthless. However, they are more discreet and do not normally kill each other off. They have caused wars and killed millions of people, but they don't normally kill each other. I believe this is why they pushed the Borgia family out of the black nobility's inner circle in Rome. This family is completely ruthless and aggressive. The Borgia family still exists today as dukes in Spain and have established family lines in South America, and Rodrigo Borja Ceballos, the former president of Ecuador. Rodrigo Borja, which Borgia, B-O-R-J-A, Borja, and his wife are knighted by the Spanish royal family and have one son and 3 daughters. In 1992, President Rodrigo Borja Ceballos met with President George Herbert Walker Bush for a drug summit conference in San Antonio, Texas, where they plotted to enable drug trafficking. Isn't that nice? Radical Badger says, nice hairdo. Thanks. I love it. I guess you're not too happy with this content. I never even heard of you, Radical Badger. You just come on up here out of the blue. Nice hairdo. Ha, ha, ha. Whatever. Rodrigo Borja and his wife are knighted. We already talked about that. Now, the Borgia family own and command a faction of MS-13, which are an extremely violent street gang originating from El Salvador. Alvaro Alfredo Magamo Borja was put in power through Operation Condor, which is a program that was orchestrated by the United States and European intelligence agencies as a continuation of their Operation Gladio. Operation Condor included assassinations, terrorism, and military usurpation of governments in South America. Organized crime increased after Operation Condor, and this is why there are so many drug cartels in South America today. Grupo Borgia is a South American investment company located in El Salvador. Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and the Dominican Republic. Grupo Borja is involved in nearly every industry, including real estate, agriculture, energy, media, and retail. Grupo Borja is run by Juan Jose Borja or Borja Papini, Ernesto Borja or Borja Papini, and Julia Margarita Borja Papini. Francisco de Borja Lacheras is the head of Madrid's office for the European Council on Foreign Relations. Don Fernando Borja, or Borja Mujica, is a Jesuit Georgetown-educated Mexican banker that is secretary of the board of directors at Banco Santander in Mexico. The Borja and Borja family have ownership of Sicilisti di Secondaglio Camaro Mafia, also called Spagnoli for Spaniards because of their involvement in Spain. The remaining Italian Borgia family are princes of Naples, where Camorra is headquartered. The Borgia family also have part ownership of the Juarez cartel, which are located in Chihuahua, Mexico. Whew. Let's go to a commercial. We'll come back to the families.
What if I told you the cause of your fatigue is hiding in plain sight? In the 1920s, Standard Oil changed medicine forever. They pushed synthetic petroleum into drugs. Sure, it masked symptoms, but it wrecked our guts. Our good bacteria, the ones fighting off parasites and heavy metals, got wiped out. But hey, here's the good news. We can fix this by going back to nature. Meet Elite Potion, the award-winning detox program that's changing lives. It restores your good bacteria by removing toxic threats like aluminum, strontium, barium, and parasites. Imagine feeling energized and alive again. They said there couldn't be a pill that did it all. We invented it. Visit ElitePotion.com and reclaim your health from synthetic pharmaceuticals. Your body will thank you.
All right, back to the show. We're talking about the 13 bloodline Zoroastrians, and we've been talking about the Borgia family. Now, San Francisco de Borja is a town of Chihuahua named by the Jesuits for Francesco Borgia. The Borgias originated in Valencia, Spain, as we've already mentioned. Cardinal Antonio Lovera is Archbishop of Valencia, and when asked about the church and pedophilia, he deflected away by bringing up abortion as a more serious issue. He also neglected to mention that an estimated 300,000 newborn babies were stolen from mothers in Spain by the Roman Catholic Church. Don Benjumea de Soto Francisco de Borja is a member of the Spanish House of Borgia, and he married the Italian princess Fabrizia Ruffo di Calabria. The head of the House of Borgia is Don Francisco de Borja Soto and Moreno Santa Maria, who is the current Duke of Escalona and Duke of Frias. Don Francisco de Borja Soto and Moreno Santa Maria, the Duke of Escalona and Duke of Frias, is part owner of the Juarez cartel and MS-13. Don Benjumea de Soto Francisco de Borja and his wife, Princess Fabrizia Ruffo di Calabria. Don Fernando Borja Mujica is a top Mexican banker and criminal financier. Don Fernando Borja, I think it's Mujica. Mr. Fernando Borja Mujica serves as secretary of the board of directors at the Banco Santander Mexico S.A. Institution de Bank, multiple, whatever. Previously known as Banco Santander Mexico S.A. and Institution for the Banking Multiples. Mr. Mujica serves as deputy general legal and compliance director of Banco Santander Mexico S.A. Institution de Banco, previous known as, we got that. And Mr. Mujica served as deputy general legal director as Grupo Financiero Santander Mexico, and was also the legal director at Grupo Financiero Santander Mexico, and has served as general legal director of Banco Santander Mexico since 2014. So basically, drug money laundering, the Borgias. Control of South America and the oil, the Borgias. Does that make sense? And they also have relations with Trump. And they support Trump. Trump is cool with drugs. From 2004 to 2014, the dude we were talking about, Murija, served as general counsel for Banco Nacional de Mexico from 1988 to 1999. He served several positions in the SHCP, including general director of banking institutions. From 1998 to 2004, he was partner of a law firm, Mijares, Anguicha, Cartez, Fuentes. Mr. Mujica served various federal government banking and financing positions. He was also a member of the Governor's Board of National Banking and Securities Commission and of the Insurance and Bonding National Commission, and served as a member of several financial institutions, including Shares and Securities, A4 Banamex, member of the Investment Committee, and Impulsora de Fondos Banamex. He was the secretary of the board of Grupo Financiero, Banamex, and Banco Nacional de Mexico. He holds a law degree from Escuela Libre de Derecho and a master's in comparative law from Georgetown University. Prince Luigi Borgia is from a noble branch of Naples and the only Italian Borgia noble family still in Italy. Prince Luigi is a knight of the Sacred Constantinian Order of St. George, a military order run by the House of Bourbon II Sicilies. So that's Borgia. All right. Next up is the House of Breakspear, or the House of Magi, and the House of Lancelotti. The Breakspear family are an ancient English clan that originated in Italy, taking their name from the Lancelotti family, which are still nobles in Rome and Campania, with Prince Filippo Massimo Lancelotti, and he manages secret societies of Druids, including the ancient order of Druids in America. Satanic Druids are involved in making human sacrifices deep in the forests. Lance means spear, and Ratti means to break. Break spear. Lancerotti is another Italian variation of the more commonly used Lancelotti family name. The Breakspear family produced the only English pope in history who was Pope Adrian IV, or Nicholas Breakspear. Pope Adrian IV issued the papal bull Laudabiliter, ordering the Normans in England to invade Ireland, which they did, and bring it under papal Roman authority, which they also did. This is why Ireland is predominantly Roman Catholic today. Cardinal Boso Breakspear was a relative of Pope Adrian IV and a both Italian and English. The musician Cindy Breakspear fathered Damian Marley and Bob Marley. Damian Marley is a descendant of Pope Adrian IV and a part owner of the Jamaican Mafia, or Jamaican Posse, which have large operations in London. The Jamaican Posse are involved in marijuana trafficking and use these profits for financing their other criminal activities, including human trafficking. Damian Marley is a ruthless mobster. Breakspear and Lancelotti is also where the character of Lancelot comes from in the Legend of Arthur. The House of Magi, M-A-G-G-I, were a nobility from the commune in Brescia, Italy, Brescia, B-R-E-S-C-I-A, Brescia, Italy, right next door to the commune of Merlino, all within the province of Lombardy. Magi or Magi means a magician or wizard, just as Merlin, like Merlino, was a wizard in the Arthurian legend. The head of the Philly crime family is Joey Merlino, and he gets his name from Merlino Lombardi. One of Joey Merlino's top crime bosses is the mobster Michael Lancelotti. The Gaetanus, I think it's Gaetanus, Gaetanis, Gaetanus, are part owners of the Philly mob, and Prince Galasio Gaetani, who calls himself the Wizard of Wine. Great. Is friends with Prince Filippo. Yeah, the Wizard of Wine is friends with Prince Filippo Massimo Lancelotti. Now, Frank Quattrone is an Italian-American banker that was convicted of obstruction of justice involving Credit Suisse first in Boston, and in the Boston investigation, and later his conviction was overturned. The Magi family settled in Switzerland and became wealthy after Julius Magi merged his Magi soup and seasonings company with Nestle. The Magi family has also settled in Brazil, establishing the Amagi soybean group owned by Blero Magi, who's worth about $960 million. Too much to say, can cause an increase in estrogen in men. I guess they've been adding estrogen into soy. So, yeah. The increase in estrogen in men can also be unhealthy for women, and they've been adding estrogen into soy and foods where it doesn't belong. These Zoroastrian bloodlines are ancient, and they go back for thousands of years, and the Magi family go back to Persia and India and derive their name from the Mahi and the Mahi, or Magi, or Magi, or Magi. Magi are also the term used for followers of Zoroastrianism, which derived from Persia and Iran. Maggio Cipriani is a Venetian international businessman that owns restaurants and bars, including in New York City. Maggio Cipriani's family are white-collar mobsters, with his father, Giuseppe, and grandfather, Arrigo, arrested for tax evasion in the United States. In the book of Matthew, myrrh, pronounced like myrrh, is an herb that was given as a gift by the three magi, or three wise men. Herbs and chemicals are used in sorcery for inducing trance-like states that enable mind control and bewitchment. Myrrh can also be ingested or used like an incense, and is likely being added into food and wine, covertly, to enhance their witchcraft. Druids similar to wizards used holly wood. Mark Breakspear is a Hollywood special effects designer, and Michael Breakspear is an Australian neuroscientist who specializes in studying oscillating wave patterns and their effects on the human brain. They are sorcerers involved in illusions, deceptions, and lawlessly imposing electronic-induced brainwashing and mind control frequencies. The Breakspear family in London own a crematorium as well, where the Breakspears and Massimos and Roccasecca, Roccasecco, which live in London, make human sacrifices. The Lancelotti family of Italy merged a branch with the Massimo family, with current members that include Prince Ludovici Massimo Lancelotti, Prince Ascanio Massimo Lancelotti, and Prince Filippo Massimo Lancelotti as the head of the family today. Good God. Now, Maggio Cipriani is an international businessman involved in clubs, restaurants, and hotels. The Ciprianis are from Venice, Italy, and they own Harry's Bar in Venice and purchased the Rainbow Room in New York from the Rockefellers and later sold it. Arrigo Cipriani and his son, Giuseppe Cipriani, with Maggio and Ignazio on the outside. Arrigo and his son Giuseppe were convicted of money laundering in the United States, and they used private bank accounts in Luxembourg, where their company is headquartered. The Cipriani family are part owners of the Venetian Mafia. Blero Magi, Prince Filippino Massimo Lancelotti, Prince Gelasio. Anyway, just names all of these names. Joey Merlino, the boss of the Philly mob in the City of Brotherly Love. The Philly mob are all involved in molesting little boys. The Gaetani Lovatelli family are owners of the Philly mob, with Lovatelli-like City of Brotherly Love, which refers to men on men. Michael Lancelotti on the left is a high-level boss of the Philly mob. Mike Lancelotti is a major dude that does bad things to children. Mike Lancelotti also... he's a capo in the Philadelphia crime family. He has managed to avoid attention while ducking indictments and never being sentenced to long prison terms. So there you have it. That is the House of Breakspear. It doesn't mention anything about Henry Breakspear, in China. I still can't find any information about Henry Breakspear in China. So that kind of information, if anybody has any information on that, send it my way. I can't find anything about Henry Breakspear and the reason why he's in China. All right. The House of Somaglia. Giulio, Giulio, Giulio Maria della Somaglia, born 1744 to 1830, was an Italian cardinal and Secretary of State under Pope Leo VII. He was known as a staunch Zealante cardinal who helped enforce an authoritarian regime in the crumbling Papal States. Della Somaglia was born in Piacenza in 1744 to Count Carlo Maria Cavazia and Countess Mariana Fenaroli. He was one of 5 children. He was sent to Rome at the age of 12 and studied at the Collegio Nazareno and La Sapienza University, acquiring degrees in both canon and civil law. In 1769, he became domestic prelate of Pope Clement the 14th. And under Pope Pius VI, he was a secretary to several curial congregations between 1773 and 1787, although he was only ordained to be the priesthood in 1787. He became titular patriarch of Antioch. The following year, he became a cardinal in June of 1795. In his years as the Cardinal della Somaglia, played an important role as a negotiator with the revolutionary regime in France. Although he undoubtedly agreed with Pius's the Sixth 1791 condemnation of the French Revolution and was expelled from Rome when Napoleon's army invaded in 1808. He was charged with the examination of the Concordat with France several years later. This role served to taint della Somaglia's reputation in the eyes of fellow Zealante cardinals. From 1814, he was secretary of the Inquisition and dean of the College of Cardinals in 1820. In 1823 conclave, della Somaglia was considered papable. In 1826, he resigned the post of Secretary of State, but continued as Secretary of the Inquisition until his death in 1830. When he died, della Somaglia was the last cardinal still alive elevated to and by Pius the Sixth. Now, the McMahon family and the Samoon dynasty have been associated with the Somaglia bloodline for generations. That's the only information I can get on the Somaglias. There's just not a lot of information. But this is a work in progress. I'm just going to continue adding and removing when I find information. Are you guys enjoying this so far? I hope so. On to the House of Orsini, the family of Rome. The House of Orsini is an Italian noble family that was one of the most influential princely families in medieval Italy and Renaissance Rome. Members of the Orsini family include 5 popes: Stephen II, Paul I, Celestine III, Nicholas III, and Benedict VIII. The House of Orsini is an Italian noble family that was one of the most influential princely families in medieval Italy and Renaissance Rome. Members of the Orsini family include, which I just read. Why is there 2 of those there? Goodbye. All right. Prince Lelio Orsini is an owner of the Cleveland crime family and an owner of factions of the Israeli mafia, including the organization run by the international ecstasy trafficker and Israeli mobster Zeev Rosenstein. The Israeli mafia are the primary ecstasy traffickers in the world. Belgium is the major supplier of ecstasy, and the company Merck literally created ecstasy. The Orsinis married the Holy Roman Rosenberg family, which used the same rose on their coat of arms as the Orsinis, and they married the Lowenstein-Wertheims, creating the Lowenstein-Wertheim-Rosenbergs, which also use roses on their coat of arms. All of these families, along with the Mercks, oversee the Rosicrucian Order, which specializes in infiltrating and running pharmaceutical companies and the medical industry for the purpose of chemical warfare. Kind of what's going on right now. We are being attacked by pharmaceuticals, and it just so happens that the Orsini family is at the top of all of that with Merck. They own it. Who do you think owns Pfizer? They own it. Belgium is a major producer of ecstasy, and the Orsinis of Italy are married with the Belgian Ligny family with Isabella Orsini, the wife of Prince Eduardo di Ligny. The Orsinis have a rose, which we already talked about, and they did marry within the Rosenberg families of Austria and Germany, which have also roses on their coat of arms. The Italian Orsinis and German-Austrian Rosenbergs are managers of the secret society called the Rosicrucian Order, or Order of the Rosy Cross, which uses a rose for its symbol. The Rosicrucians are alchemists, and alchemy is the manipulation of mind and body through drugs and chemicals. Ecstasy is an alchemical drug and is often used for mind control and brainwashing. The Orsinis and Rosenbergs work with the Merck family of Germany, which has 3 roses on their coat of arms, and they created and own Merck Group, a pharmaceutical company. Merck Group patented the drug ecstasy, also called MDMA, in 1912. The Merck family also created Merck Fink Bank. Prince Alois Constantine of Lowenstein-Wertheim-Rosenberg recently worked as the director of Merck Fink and Company, which is a private German bank that took over the Rothschilds' Austrian bank during World War II. That further explains why the Orsinis are part owners of the Israeli mafia. Prince Alois Constantine's father was a Nazi and member of the Nazi Sturmabteilung. Roman Knights of Malta, Vatican Knight, Bavarian Knight, Habsburg Knight, and a Prussian Nazi Knight. There you have it. Remember Prussia? Russia beat Prussia, forced them to choose a religion. They choose Judaism. Then they created Kabbalism, added the Talmud, and there you have yourself a nice little Jewish religion that they could go use to take over the Middle East. What's up, Bushido? What's up, PLP? What's up, Edged? All right. The Orsini basically established 2 Holy Roman nobilities in the Lowenstein-Wertheim-Rosenberg and Orsini-Rosenberg families. The Orsini family of Italy are the owners of the Ursino-Negrada mafia clan, with Luigi Ursino, a high-ranking mafia boss, and Giuseppe Ursino, who ran a large drug trafficking network in Toronto, Canada, until his recent arrest. Prince Domenico Napoleon Orsini is the official head of the family and a ruthless chemical terrorist. The Orsinis married to the very large and influential Sanseverino family, which have been nobles all over southern Italy. Today, Prince Francesco Luca Costa Sanseverino of Bisignano is the head of this family, and he resides in Hong Kong and manages Chinese triad gangs which are involved in child trafficking networks. Ouch. The Orsinis are the owners of the Cleveland crime family and have a very close alliance with the Detroit Mafia. The Jewish rap producer Paul Rosenberg, who is from Detroit, works under the Cleveland crime family, and he is the manager of Eminem, whose official DJ is the producer and Israeli mobster, The Alchemist. Rosicrucianism is a secret society of alchemists. The Orsinis have an alliance with the Odescalchi, or Odescalchi family of Rome, and sold them one of their palaces. Orsini is a ruthless family. According to their own family legend, the Orsinis are descendants from the Julio-Claudian dynasty of ancient Rome. The Orsini carried on a political feud with the Colonna family for centuries in Rome, until it was stopped by papal bull in 1511. In 1571, the head of the Both families married nieces of Pope Sixtus V as an act of reconciliation. Ironically, the Colonna family also claims descent from the Julio-Claudian dynasty of ancient times. The Orsini descend from Cajo Orso Orsini, who lived from 600 CE. 5 popes are descended from him: Stephen II, Paul I, Celestine III, Nicholas III, and Benedict VIII. Some members used the surname of Babone Orsini. Babone. One member by the name of Babone lived during the early 11th century, father of Pietro, who was in turn father of Giacinto Babone, who in 1191 became pope as Celestine III, one of the first great nepotist popes. Nepotist. He made 2 of his nephews cardinals and allowed his cousin Giovanni Gaetano, who died, to buy the fiefs of Vicavoro, Licenza, Roccagiovanni, and Nettuno, which formed the nucleus of the future territorial power of the family. The Babone surname was lost with his children, who were called Didomo, Filiorum, Ursi. 2 of them, Napoleon and Matteo Rosso the Great, considerably increased the prestige of the family. The former of the founder of the first southern line, which died out with Camillo Pardo in 1553, he obtained the city of Montepello, later a countship, and was Gonfalonier of the Papal States. Gonfaloniere. Good God. Whatever. Matteo Rosso, called the Great, was the effective lord of Rome from 1241, when he defeated the imperial troops, until 1243, holding the title of senator. 2 of his sons and Napoleon were also senators. Matteo ousted the family's traditional rivals, the Colonna family, from Rome, and extended the Orsini territory southward down to Avellino and northwards to Pitigliano. During his life, the family was firmly in the Welf faction. He had some 10 sons who divided the fiefs after his deaths. Gentile originated from Pitigliano line and the second southern line. Rinaldo, that of Monterratondo. Napoleon, that of Bracciano, and another Matteo Rosso, that of the Monte Giordano. God, I hate this. From the name of the district of Rome housing the family fortress. Fine. I'm telling you. Why do they have to pick such horrible names? The most distinguished of his sons was Giovanni Gaetano. Elected pope as Nicholas III, he named his nephew Bertoldo as Count of Romagna, and had 2 nephews and a brother created cardinals. The line of Gravina, which Napoleon is the Duke of Gravina, from the name of the eponymous city of Apulia, is the only existing line of the Orsini. It descends from Francesco, who died in 1456, a son of Count Carlo of Bracciano. Most of his fief, F-I-E-F, was located in northern Lazio, but he entered in the Neapolitan orbit when in 1418 he was called by Sergiani Caracciolo to fight against the aggressive troops, or the Angevine troops, which he defeated. By marriage, he obtained the title of Count of Gravina. He was made Duke of Gravina by King Alfonso, a title definitely assigned to his son Giacomo, to which had been added to counties of Conversano, Campagna, and Copertino. Two of Francesco's sons, Marino and Giovanni Battista, were respectively Archbishop of Toronto and Grand Master of the Knights of Rhodes. The fourth Duke, Francesco, was part of a conspiracy along with his brother Giulio and Paolo against Caesar Borgia, but were found out. And Francesco was strangled to death on 1503, along with his brother Paolo. One of Francesco's nephews, Flavio Orsini, was created cardinal in 1565. The fifth Duke, Ferdinando, had all his fiefs confiscated by the Spaniards, but he regained them after a 40,000 scudi payment. Wonderful. After the death of Duke Michele Antonio, his lands passed to his cousin Pietro Orsini, Count of Muro Lucano. The latter's nephew, Pier Francesco, who had renounced the succession in favor of his brother Domenico to become a Dominican, was later elected pope with the name of Benedict VIII. His successor raised Benedict VIII's nephew, Prince Beraldo Orsini, to the dignity of Prince Assistant to the papal throne. After the Emperor Charles VI had already, in 1724, made him a prince of the Holy Roman Empire. The last cardinal from the family was Domenico. This branch of the family moved to Rome in the 18th century, where Duke Domenico married Maria Luisa Torlonia in 1823. In 1850, he was Minister of War and General Lieutenant of the Papal Armies, and also Senator of Rome. The remaining princely family is represented by Prince Domenico Napoleon Orsini, Duke of Ravenna. With no sons or male line descendants, the heir of the dukedom of Ravenna is his unnamed brother, Don Benedetto Orsini, born in 1956, followed by his cousin, Prince Lelio Orsini di Aragona, whose mother is Princess Katevan Bagration Mukransky. It is recorded that Prince Domenico is the Gray Pope and directs the Black and White Pope. All right, that's it. We're going to have to do a part 2, guys. I still have, 11 more families to go. Next will be the House of the Conti di Segni, or the House of Bourbon. So there you have it. And next is a commercial, though.
If you're looking for a publication that delivers honest takes and critical insights into the issues of our day, then look no further than the Flame Paper. The Flame Paper is written for the people, by the people, who aren't afraid to challenge a mainstream narrative, be it healthcare, voter fraud, political correctness, or even the one-world government. The Flame is full of timely articles, reports, and expert advice written by freedom-loving, truth-telling experts, journalists, and concerned citizens. To subscribe, go to theflameusa.com.
This has been Cause Before Symptom. I'm your host, James Carner. Tune in tomorrow night when I give you part 2 of the 13 bloodlines that control the world. God bless you, God keep you, God thank you for being here and watching the show. Definitely going to have to probably do 3 parts on this one, so stay tuned tomorrow at 9 o'clock for part 2 of the 13 bloodlines that control the world. A deep dive. Go to jamescarner.com, sign up for my newsletter, please. It's the only way to get a hold of you. Go to elitepotion.com and please buy my product. And if you can all do me a big favor, just love your neighbor. If you would, this world would be a better place. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.